Mr. Johnson, would you please introduce yourself and give us your DOC number?
Donovan Johnson, 389304.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we're going to conduct a pardon interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow those persons who wish to have input to speak. Speaking on your behalf today, your attorney, Ms. Jane Hogan, is here. Mr. Kerry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project. Mr. Joseph Landix, who is a friend of yours, and Ms. Trenisha Johnson, who is your sister, will be speaking. Also present, but not speaking, is Donovan Johnson, Jakira West, Annette Milton, Latoria Johnson, Donald Johnson, Whitney Johnson, Dominique Johnson, Kendra Cato. Speaking in opposition today here at headquarters is Ms. Tracy Barbera, who is the first assistant DA for the East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney's Office. I'd like, do you understand after we hear from those people, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say to the board. Ms. Hogan will wrap it up and then we'll vote. You understand our process?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is the matter of Donovan R. Johnson. Mr. Johnson's DOC number is 389304. His date of birth is October the 29th of 1974. He is currently serving a life sentence on the charge of second-degree murder, having been sentenced on February the 19th of 1998. Is that information correct, Mr. Donovan?
Yes, sir.
Your case has been assigned to Mr. Pete Freeman to begin our interview process. Would you please answer any questions he might have?
Okay.
Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Johnson, how old are you?
48,
Okay, and how long have you served on this charge?
27, almost 27 years.
Okay. What is your educational level?
11th grade.
Okay, have you taken any GED classes since you've been in prison?
Well, when I first came, it was for the prep program, and I never tried it after that. But I maintained to get other certificates, but I didn't take GED.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, tell me what happened that night. I mean, I've read the reports and stuff, and I'm still a little confused. What went on?
A drug deal went bad. We was riding and pulled over to sell drugs to them. And when I reached in the car to give them the drugs, they tried to snatch them on my hand, and I shot in the car and shot him.
Were y'all planning on robbing them or selling them drugs?
I was selling them drugs. They didn't have the money for the drugs. They tried to snatch them on my hand.
Okay. So, so your role was that you had the drugs with you, you tried to give it to him, he tried to snatch them, and you shot.
Yes,
Correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Were you on drugs at the time?
No, sir. I just smoked marijuana occasionally, but no, I would never use heavy drugs.
Okay, did you drink?
Beer.
Yeah. Okay, have you ever had a drug problem?
No, sir.
Okay, so you say you just occasionally use. Tell me about your juvenile record. Did you have a juvenile record?
No, sir.
Okay. Looking at the comments, and DA's office is opposed, the judge has changed and they have no comments, the sheriff is opposed, there was no comments from the chief, and your family members were unopposed. The victim's brother was strongly opposed. Do you have any children?
Yes, I have 2 daughters. That was Donovan Johnson and Dominique Johnson.
Do you have any contact with your children?
Yes, sir. They're here behind me.
Okay, great, great. All right, let's see. You are low risk. You've taken a bunch of classes, well, a few classes, not a bunch of classes. Tell me which class you took you got the most out of.
Well, I would say thinking for a change. The time it take you to make a mistake, you can think it over and decide to go a different way with it.
I see you also took victim awareness. What did you learn from victim awareness?
For victim awareness, well, it's not only the victim that you're hurting his family just as well as him.
Okay. And you took anger management. What did you learn from that?
The cage erase, same thing. You can think before you can do it.
All right. I see you've had 15 write-ups. The last one was in 2013. Back in 2011, you had a couple contraband write-ups. What were they about?
Well, one was a what was that?
I think it was when you had cigarettes.
Was,
You were in.
I was in population, but they made my dormitory non-smoking. I got caught smoking in the dorm.
Well, I think that you were in the cell block.
Yeah, in the working cell block with a pack of cigarettes.
Okay, so you had cigarettes. Okay, what was the other charge about? One on 824 and one on 917. What was the other contraband?
Oh, that was a dirty hearing for smoking marijuana.
But you told me earlier you don't smoke drugs.
I said I smoked marijuana occasionally. I never said I didn't smoke.
Okay.
I said I didn't use heavy drugs.
But you did get caught smoking marijuana.
Yeah, I pretty much I gave up and I slept.
Okay. Because I'm noticing on your report on Donovan Johnson, it says that they didn't give you substance abuse because you had too much of a problem.
Huh?
That they thought you needed more substance abuse.
I don't know nothing about that, sir. Yes, I wrote in for substance abuse and risk management. It said I didn't qualify for the classes.
Right. That's what I was.
Yeah, I didn't qualify. It ain't that I had a problem with it.
Okay. I see you did some volunteer work during the pandemic. What you did during the pandemic?
Well, first we got the area ready for when the guys, they brought a lot of them to live here. We got the area straight for them to live here. And afterwards I cooked for them, prepared all their bills. People with COVID, and we took care of them through the whole pandemic.
Okay. Okay. Any other volunteer work you've done while you've been in prison?
Well, tail walk, I do a lot of tail walking and I mentor. We have I live at Camp F. They have a lot of tourists come back there. And I talk to a lot of juveniles and all the tour people that come back there.
Any other community service you do?
For all our special events, I do all the cooking.
They do all the cooking. Okay, well, that's good. Donate any money to clubs or anything like that?
When I sell my Hobbycraft, I donate Hobbycraft and I give procedures through the church with my money.
Okay. Warden, you have any comments?
Mr. Freeman, since 2015, he was a Min C, worked his way up, Min B, and then in 17, a Min A. As far as his Hobbycraft and his donations, that is accurate. last write-up being in 13. He did provide us with assistance during the COVID pandemic, as you spoke of. Looking at his programming, there was not significant substance use history, so therefore that program was not offered to him. We've not had any trouble.
That's all the question.
Mr. Rocha has a question. Mr. Rocha?
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna give you a second bite at the apple. Mr. Freeman asked you, did you have a criminal record? And you said no. You wanna tell us exactly what your criminal record is?
Second degree murder.
Do you have any?
Your juvenile record.
I've never been in trouble as a juvenile, sir. I had a fight on the bus.
Sir, at the age of 12, you were arrested by the Baton Rouge City Police for simple battery. You were
On a school bus.
You were counseled. I'm talking now. You were counseled and warned and released. When you were 13 years old, on August 8, 1988, you were arrested again by the Baton Rouge City Police for theft. November 88, Baton Rouge City Police. Misdemeanor theft, resisting the officer, and simple battery. August 88 again, they added the charge of resisting arrest. Now, is this your record that I have in your report, or is this a mistake?
That's a mistake, sir. That's not me.
There's there was a issue, Mr. Roche, prior to me filing my brief. Mr. Johnson was originally classified as a second offender. I emailed records about it, and they clarified that he is a first offender. So I know that there is another Donovan Johnson in DOC. If you look on the Tiger website, another Donovan Johnson pops up. So I don't know if that has anything to do, but Mr. Johnson says that the only thing that he recalls from his juvenile history is a fight on the bus, and everything else was not him.
So basically, you didn't have a DOC number, so I can't identify it by DOC number. But there is a juvenile record in his file, and it lists 4 different arrests at the age of 12, 13, and 14. You see that, Mr. Freeman? Mr. Chairman?
Now we'll hear from your supporters. Mr. Myers, Kerry Myers.
Yes, good afternoon. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We are here to let the board know that should Mr. Johnson be successfully granted today, we will provide support for his transition after 27 years of incarceration. Mr. Donovan's shown that his transformation in prison is the type of client that we would like to have at Parole Project. We believe his trajectory is forward. He's shown rehabilitation through programming. He's shown rehabilitation through his volunteer work. Some of the things he's done in volunteering, particularly cooking for special events, cooking during COVID at Camp J as a volunteer, his trustee status uninterrupted for 11 straight years. We would just believe that he makes a good candidate, and should this board give him this opportunity today, Parole Project supports him, and we just ask the board to give him his recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Joseph Landix.
Good evening. The mission statement of rehabilitation centers around 3 critical factors. 1, accountability. 2, remorse. And number 3 is compassion. The disposition of Mr. Johnson exemplifies all 3 of the aforementioned. I've known Mr. Johnson for at least 23 years. I won't talk about his rehabilitative efforts. I'm gonna talk about an intangible that's not in his record and that's not highly spoken of. Mr. Johnson has helped so many youthful offenders not fall victim to sexual assault by predatory inmates at the penitentiary. When we both arrived, Angola was slowly transitioning out of the brutal and barbaric ways. I watched Mr. Johnson on countless occasions sacrifice his own life to stop all walks of life as of youthful offenders from being taken advantage of by sexual offenders. Second, I watched Mr. Johnson, like myself, keep me out of foolishness. In fact, the success that I've achieved upon my 2 years of release is predicated on Mr. Johnson's. Recently, I was awarded last week at Nunez Community College as I made the National Scholar Association. That success would not be here if it was not for Mr. Johnson. It was a situation right before I appeared before the parole board between me and another offender that he intervened and he neutralized the whole situation. A lot of the credit that I'm being given, honestly, it goes to Mr. Johnson as well as many other people as the staff at Angola as well, because their impact helped me. With that being said, I implore this honorable board to take into consideration the rehabilitative factors of Mr. Johnson and grant him a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landix. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Trenisha Johnson?
You can just sit right there and talk.
I'm here, I guess, speaking not only for myself, but on behalf of my family to say, throughout his incarceration, we have made sure that at least twice a month that we have been here. We've made sure that he is able to call while he has been here, to stay in touch with his children, to keep that relationship. That's something that's been very important to him. He has always been a vital part of this family, and upon his release, I've offered my home. We've all offered whatever is needed to keep him on a straight path that we're all willing to do, whether that's moral support, spiritual support, rides to work, or whatever is needed. Our family is here to stand behind him, and we hope you'll grant his release. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. We appreciate your comments. Now we'll hear from the opposition and Ms. Barbera.
Good afternoon, Tracy Colbert again for East Baton Rouge District Attorney's Office. Just a couple of things I noticed in the initial clemency application. It seems that Mr. Johnson was writing it in third person, not expecting, I did this, but just that this happened. I realize now that Ms. Hogan has become involved in this case. His interview for the clemency investigation was a little bit different. Some other concerns we had were, as Mr. Freeman pointed out, just not a whole lot of programming. And I do wonder why he's been in prison for so long, why it wasn't until March of 2020 that the victim awareness class was taken. That just always concerns me when we're doing homicide investigation. I don't know what his plans are. I realize he has family support, and obviously the Parole Project is a wonderful organization, should the governor grant his request for implementation. But just quite frankly, didn't see some of the things in this clemency investigation that I've noticed in others where individuals seem to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barbera. Mr. Johnson, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we turn it over to Ms. Hogan?
I'd like to apologize to the Beckham family, to let them know how sorry I am. No one deserves to lose a loved one. And just say I'm sorry. And thanking y'all for taking y'all time off for having me with the board.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Hogan?
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Donovan Johnson is a man of few words, but as Mr. Landix pointed out very eloquently, he has really walked with rehabilitation and in a way that really impacts other people. He, for years, was a tier walker. He was also an orderly in the cell blocks, and he has used his position in those roles to be a light to people that are otherwise suffering through very dark periods in their own lives. Mr. Johnson was 22 years old when he committed this crime. As I mentioned in my brief, at the age of 17, he had 2 small children that he was trying to support. That doesn't excuse his actions whatsoever, but what's really remarkable is throughout the last 27 years, Mr. Johnson has found a way to support his daughters and has found a way to support his grandchildren from his work within the prison. He's not making money to improve his own life. He sends every cent of the money that he makes either to charitable organizations or back home to his family. He's taken classes as they become available. He struggled academically. So after taking the initial placement test for the GED, different people serve time in different ways. You'll see some people, of course, this board has seen people that have hundreds of certificates and have furthered their educational opportunities. Mr. Johnson has learned, has apprenticed with people, learned about carpentry, learned about cooking, has taken advantage of programs as they become available. Then, as was mentioned, he cooked during COVID for the isolation ward where everybody was trying to get as far away from COVID patients as possible. Mr. Johnson volunteered to go to Camp J and to live there and to take care of people that were suffering. If this board is at all concerned about Mr. Johnson's answers as for his juvenile record, I would, if this board is concerned about that, I would ask this board to potentially recess its decision so I can do some digging into that, given that there was already a mistake on his master prison record. He was originally classified, as I said, as a second offender. A simple email to staff clarified that he is a first offender. I know that there are other Donovan Johnsons in the system, so I don't know if that causes some of the confusion, but I would hope that if this board is inclined to deny him because of how he answered that question, I would hope that we would at least have the opportunity to dig into his OJJ records and to prove to this board that those other arrests were not, in fact, this Donovan Johnson. So for all these reasons, as well as you can see the monumental amount of family support that he has behind us, the support of the parole project, who will assess him for any needs that he has and will line him up with those services, we would ask that Mr. Johnson be granted clemency with any conditions that are deemed appropriate.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Appreciate your comments. Panel ready to vote?
Mr. Chairman, executive session.
Thank you.
Okay, there's been a motion for executive session and a second. Will you please call the roll?
Bonnie Jackson. Yes. Alvin Roche.
Yes.
Tony Marabella.
Yes.
Pete Freeman.
Yes.
We will be adjourned briefly. It's 12:41. We'll be in executive session to discuss matters of a confidential nature very shortly. Okay, the pardon board is resuming. The time is 12:42. Panel ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Johnson. I'm looking at a bunch of things. I do appreciate your community service during COVID. Looks like everything you've done in prison has been for fellow inmates and to help the prison staff out with things, and that's a good thing. I hope you try to take more classes in the near future, because my vote today is going to be to grant your commutation, grant your clemency and commute to 99 years. That way, we'll have a chance to clear up any matters with the juvenile, and we'll go from there. But I understand it's probably hard for you to take classes, but do your best to take some more classes.
Thank you. I got you.
Okay. Ms. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Johnson, my vote is the same. You have a good disciplinary record and you have rendered outstanding service to the institution.
Mr. Roche? Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
My vote is the same for the same reasons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 3 votes to recommend to the governor we commutate that he commutate your sentence to 99 years. My vote is likewise the same. With reference to your juvenile record, I'm not sure if that's you or if it's not you, but you were 12 or 13. It didn't really matter that much to me, and I don't know that the rest of the board was concerned about that, but that might be something you might want to look into for your parole hearing. So good luck to you. So you get 4 votes. You recommend to the governor that he commute your sentence to 99 years.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.